had this thing in my head where I was just going to say, hey, everybody, welcome to the PP podcast. But I didn't do it. I didn't do it.
You should. I've thought about it before. Whenever you write down the name, I always put PP, and I'm like,
PP. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pixel Perspective podcast. My name is JJ, and I'm here with my friend Adrian.
Hello.
And today, we are talking about next-gen stuff. Consoles, more specifically, and just next-gen gaming in general. I really was hoping we'd have like a price announcement before we recorded this, but unfortunately not.
Isn't that the weirdest thing?
Maybe by the time we have this up, but we're recording this on the 26th of August. And I think we said it's going to go up on what, like the 7th or 6th?
This weekend, yeah.
Next weekend, you mean?
Next weekend.
Yeah, 7th. So hopefully the price is out by then. And if so, that'll be great. But as of right now, no, still no price announcement, but there's still plenty.
What's your prediction?
Oh God.
Do you think they're going to have a price war, or do you think they're going to price the same?
I think they're going to be relatively the same. I think you're going to see higher prices for the ones that accept physical media, and the discounted ones are going to be the ones that are digital only.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking probably maybe $399 and $449.
I think you're spot on with that, especially since the Xbox One X and the PS4 Pro, those were $399 when they launched, or were they $499?
$499, I believe, for the Xbox One, $399 for the PS4.
Okay. I think $399 is a good sweet spot. I think
so too.
Both compete for that price. If anybody undercuts anybody, I think Xbox is going to be undercutting PlayStation 5. They seem to be the underdogs right now.
Oh, they are. And the last time with what happened with their whole debacle launch in general, I mean, everything went wrong for them. And now with Halo being delayed, which I'm all for delaying games if it's going to make them better, absolutely. But the fact that it was going to be your headlining launch title is not that it's a bad thing, but it's a blow to people who were excited to get that console. It's kind of just I already was kind of thinking to myself, I have a really good PC. Do I even need to get an Xbox next gen? Of course, I would love to get one because I like consoles better. But I think most people, I don't know about most people, but a lot of people who are on the fence about both, this probably makes them lean more towards the PC side because they're like, why am I going to buy a console if the game I want isn't even going to be out yet and I could play all the other games on my PC?
You are describing me and my thoughts exactly.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate, you hate to see that. But before we get into that, why don't we talk about what we've been playing lately? Would you like to go first?
Yeah, sure.
Do it.
So I've been playing kind of we were talking earlier, I've been playing like a smorgasbord, you should say, of different games. I'm trying to figure out what I want to stick with.
The last time you finished a game?
Final Fantasy VII Remake was the last game I finished.
All right. Okay.
But I've played a ton more games since then. I just haven't finished any of them. So I have, and I think I've said this before, I have what's called video game ADD. I'm self-prescribed. And it's a crappy thing to have because I think the biggest problem, or the reason I have it, is because of all of these games that I have behind me here. I keep buying games and I'm not sticking with any one of them. Sorry, my dogs are going to be running through the house and making noises, but
you're good.
So I have the problem of having too much to play and not enough focus to pick any one game.
Okay,
and
hold
stick
on,
with
hold
it.
on. Before you continue, I want to address that because I made a video on that a while ago.
Yeah.
I do not think that that's a bad thing. I've heard a lot of people say they think that's a bad thing. I don't personally believe that. I honestly miss the days of like. I think part of it honestly also comes from us being like, we've been playing games since we were little kids and, playing the NES and Super Nintendo. And back then you weren't playing one game until you finished it. You were just switching cartridges out every 20 minutes or so and just playing games because they were fun. I
Yeah.
honestly think there is a lot to be said about somebody who does that and just plays the games that they want to play and wants to have fun with it. I just don't see a problem with that. So I disagree, sir. I don't think what you're doing is bad at all. I think you're just having
Okay.
fun, and I think you should enjoy yourself.
Well, thank you. I
made.
appreciate that. It's seriously like an internal struggle that I have. Like, why can't I stick with any one game? But it's good to hear that. It is nice though. I mean, I am not always in the mood to play a certain game. So, like for instance, I've been playing the heck out of Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. I'm probably 20 some odd hours into it, and I'm starting to wear a little thin on it. And like I'm not done with it. I want to keep playing, but I need a little bit more variety. So
Sure.
I've been trying out other things, and it's nice to be able to go in and like I'm in the mood for an RPG, so I can play an RPG. Well, now I'm in the mood for a puzzle game. I'll play one of those, or a platformer, or a first-person shooter. I will play whatever I'm in the mood to play at that point in time, and so that leads me to having a huge list of games that I'm playing concurrently and not finishing any one game. But it is what it is, and I you're right. I mean, it doesn't bother me that I'm not finishing these games.
Right.
I guess I'm waiting for that one game that really grabs onto me and makes me like just absolutely fall in love with it. I'm looking for another Dark Souls. Let's just say that Dark Souls is the game that at least in recent memory, that really just I clung to it and I couldn't put it down. So so for what I've been playing, I kind of got off track there. I stopped Definitive Edition on Xenoblade Chronicles a few weeks ago, and since then I picked up Paper Mario Origami King, and I've really enjoyed that game. I know that one's got really mixed reviews, but I love the art style in it. I always say that, but this
From
one
what I
specifically,
understand, the mixed reviews on it come from the battle system. Like you either love it or you hate it. I haven't
yeah,
played it yet.
the battle system is fine. Like, okay, the lining up the enemies to do attacks and things based on certain weapons, it's cool, but it does get a little tiresome after a while, especially when there's no real benefit to fighting enemies. You don't gain experience or anything like that. So it's just I enjoyed it for a time, and now I typically find myself running away from battles if I can, and it's fine that way. Like my favorite part of that game is finding toads. So there's toads hidden everywhere in every portion of the game that you go to, and they're so cleverly hidden that it's so fun and funny when you find them. And you usually have to whack them with your hammer and spread them out because they're all wadded up or something. You'll see toads disguised as butterflies flying, and like you go hit that butterfly with the hammer and it turns into a toad. And so each one of those toads that you find joins you in battle, and you can call upon them for support. So you have to pay them though. That's the only downside. So you throw coins at them, and then they'll throw you healing items or maybe tell you which way to go or something like that. And I'm just enjoying that part of it. And the game's just, it's clever. It's funny. It's a Paper Mario game, like what you would come to expect, I think.
Sure.
And I am enjoying it more than Color Splash. Color Splash, I thought the battle system in that one was atrocious. It drug things out for the sake of dragging things out. This doesn't go as slow as that with the card system. So I can handle it. The only thing I really don't like about it is the boss battles. The boss battles are a completely different way of battling than you're still on the circle grid but you're not lining up enemies. You're creating a path for Mario to go down, and then you have to do a certain attack on the boss in order to affect him. But they don't really, every boss is different, and there's different phases to each boss, so you don't know what you're supposed to do. So part of your move requires you to find a little note card that gives you a hint on what you're supposed to do. and it just kind of throws a wrench in everything. On top of that, like I don't really understand the different arrows. Like I don't understand. My brain can't wrap around the path that I need Mario to take, and it's really frustrating. So anytime I get into a boss battle, boss battles typically should be fun and exciting.
Right.
Not in this game. I get in a boss battle, I'm like, oh great, not again. It always takes it takes at least 20 minutes for me to get through a boss battle in that game.
Oh wow. Okay.
But it's not a deal breaker. I'm still enjoying the game. I think it's a great game. I think anybody should play it. If you're on the fence because people are saying it, it's so it's got such mixed reviews, I say give it a shot. I'm enjoying it.
Sure.
It's also inspired me to go back and play Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga on the 3DS, the re-release.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been playing that as well, kind of concurrently, and it's kind of weird because I'm getting the two mixed up because they're similar in so many ways. But Superstar Saga is fantastic game. I'd never played that before, and I don't know why. I think I like that more than Paper Mario, to be honest with you. It's just so clever, and I love the way the Mario and Luigi talk to each other, the kind of the fake Italian speech that they got.
Oh, jeez. I haven't played it, but I want to for sure. That was one of my biggest, like, as much as I love Super Mario RPG, that was my biggest gripe, was that Luigi wasn't a party member.
Well, now he is. And it's crazy. Like, I haven't played the Game Boy Advance version, but I'm playing the 3DS version, and the 3DS version looks great.
Cool.
And it's a lot of fun. I also, after we talked last month on the episode about Land Greaser and the artwork on that and everything,
Mm-hmm.
I went ahead and picked it up and played it again. And now playing it from the beginning and getting an understanding of the battle system and everything, it's really fun. I really like it. It's a really good tactical strategy RPG. And there's a lot of moves that you have to do, but I figured out that you can go straight for certain key characters like generals and stuff and take them down, and it will take down their whole squad with them. So you can reduce the amount of enemies that you have to take down that way. And I didn't realize that when I played the demo. So and that changes my perspective of the game completely. I'm still not very fond of the art in game, but you can change it to classic graphics. At least with the level design and the little faces that pop up, but you can't change the way they look. It's a cool game. I recommend that one as well. I've also been playing Control, which is a fantastic game. That game feels good. The gunplay really and the telepathy and everything that is in that game is so fun. I am going to finish that one. I need to get back to it. And then over the weekend, I had a hankering to play some Sekiro. So I popped in Sekiro and was playing it. And I was worried, having not played it in probably a year, that I wouldn't be able to remember the controls and everything. It took me about 5 minutes to relearn the controls, and I was already back into it. Made it to the next shrine or bonfire, as it is, like the next save point. Right. And I was pretty proud of that. So that game is so good. It is so good.
Did you get your Drake sword?
No, I didn't.
Couldn't resist.
I'm loving Sekiro. Like I going back to it, it's like, why did I stop playing this? I know why I stopped. I had to move and everything, and I just couldn't play it. But now I kind of want to like dive into that game and just really lose myself in it. It's those games. That's what they do. The immersion that I'm looking for, FromSoft knows how to get me, man. They just know how to get me. Cool. Anyway, I played a bunch of other things probably, but those are the main things I've been playing. What about you?
I played a bunch of other things probably. That's definitely, I would classify that as gamer ADD for sure. I can't remember what I told you I finished last time, so I'm still working on my 20 games for the year. The last few that I finished were Beyond Good and Evil on PS2. Really liked it. I think the gameplay is a little rough because the camera angles are so weird. I think they remastered it, and I should have tried to do that. I forgot that they did that, so I played the original, and it was a little rough. But I really like the idea behind it and the lore and the world. So I really do hope that second one does come out at some point because it was really really neat. Also finished for the first time ever Metal Gear Solid. First
Oh
one.
man, that's news to me. I didn't know that. That's awesome.
I was not a fan.
Really?
No, I did not like it.
Oh.
Part of it though is because I am terrible at stealth games. Like that first room, I died at least 15 times trying to just get through it. Like, because I kept I would try running and gunning, I would try beating up the guards. Controls weren't working for me. I couldn't figure out how to choke people and get them out of the way. Like I was so bad at it.
You're talking about when you first start, when you get out of the water, right?
Yes, the very
man.
first room. Yes, yeah, it was bad. Once I understood the game a little more and played and got the and it clicked. I was able to kind of just breeze through it. No, my gripe came with the backtracking.
Oh
Good
yeah.
Lord, there's so much, and it's just it feels so pointless and empty. I did not like how much there was. I think if they had just left that out, it really would have been a lot better for me. I like the innovation that they had. That whole boss fight where he predicts your movements and he's a mind reader, so you have to plug the controller into the second. Yeah, I thought that was so cool. But I don't know. It just didn't resonate with me. I think honestly, it also probably would have been better if I'd played it at the time it came out. But it just the backtracking really, really got to me. I was rolling my eyes so much, just like, oh my God, I have to go all the way back to there. Like it was just annoying. Thank God it was short, so I was able to get through it and find. And I'm really glad I played it because I loved the second one and I loved 5. This one just wasn't my cup of tea. But again, like I said, I love seeing that transition from early games in a series to what comes out later on and knowing where 5 is compared to this was just like I can't wait to play the other games in the middle because that's a really really cool it'll be a really cool transition to see. So yeah, I'm not for me really, but I'm glad I played it and finished it finally.
It's interesting to hear you say that because I'm looking at the game through nostalgia glasses, and I played it back when it first came out and adored the game. And I do remember the backtracking, but that's not something that really sticks out to me. So it's interesting to hear your perspective.
Yeah, it's not one that I will go back to at any point. You should. I'd be curious to hear what you think. If you ever get the chance, go check it out again.
Yeah.
Because it's a short game, so I mean, also, Phantasy Star 3 on Sega Genesis.
Wow.
I played it on the Genesis Collection on Switch. Speaking of backtracking, good Lord, you don't get a vehicle till the very end, and it has not even a vehicle. You don't get the ability to travel faster until way later on in the game, and it's so grind heavy and the battles are nonstop and it's really cool as far as the concept behind it. So it's called Generations of Doom, and you start out as this guy trying to save a princess, and so you do all that. Then you get the choice of marrying her or marrying one of the other girls that joins your party. Depending on who you pick, that's going to be who your second part of the story is going to be the main character. And so they have a kid, and that person takes over, and then you play as them. And then once at their end of the game, they also have a choice to make on who they're going to marry and end up with, and then they have a kid on top of that. And so you play through these different storylines with each generation that all kind of connects at the end. It was that I thought that was really really neat. I'd love to see a remake or something of that, or at least a game that kind of did something similar that isn't Agarest Generations of War, which was I couldn't even make it half an hour through that game. But I again, I'm glad I played it because Phantasy Star 4 is the one that's next. And man, people compare that to the greats on Super Nintendo. Final Fantasy 6, Chrono Trigger, that kind of thing. And it's really hard for me to believe that having played Phantasy Star 1 through 3 now, because while I appreciate them, Final Fantasy 2 and 3 and Chrono Trigger and Secret of Mana, they are not. It's night and day. so I'm really curious to see how that measures up. But I'm excited to play it at some point. And then lately, I've been playing Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag and loving it. Absolutely just addicted to sailing and fighting other pirate ships and collecting stuff. It's a Ubisoft game, so it's a collectathon. And I love just finding everything and unlocking stuff. And at first I was kind of like, maybe I'll go for the platinum. And then I realized there were a bunch of multiplayer trophies. And I was like, no, never mind. Not doing that. I don't care enough. But fun fact, once this episode is released, I will have finished Black Flag. And that is my 20th game for the year on the list. And that is completely done. So I think what I'm going to do is make another video where I briefly talk about each one of the games, save the two that I'm doing reviews for. But I'm really shocked that I finished it this early, because last year I went right up until like mid-December before I finished the entire list, and that was including new games that I put on there. This time I didn't put any new games on the list; it was all old stuff. So I'm just playing new games on top of that. So kind of crazy.
You've got you've completed quite a bit this year. That's nice. I played through, I think Black Flag was the last Assassin's Creed that I played through, and it didn't really strike a chord with me. It's probably my least favorite of the games prior to it, because I was huge into Assassin's Creed. I played 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, Black Flag. I played the Vita one even, and I loved all of them. And I maybe it was just fatigue by that point when Black Flag came out that I just
possible. They're all very, very similar. That's why I spread them out so much. One a year is pretty much what I do. The Ezio trilogy was probably the best in my opinion that I've played at least so far.
Man,
it was spectacular.
I liked I think the second one the best. I don't remember the names of them now, but yeah, I really liked the first one, but the second one I think was really where it
Brotherhood.
took off.
Maybe.
I think so. Is that the one where you can build your own brotherhood, I guess? You build like your base and stuff?
I think you do that in all of them.
Do you? Okay.
I think so. But either way, yeah, they were all good. They all kind of blend together for me, but I really, really enjoyed those three. Absolutely. I'm really liking 4, though. And I like the remaster.
It was a real shame, though, to see the was it Mile? No. What's the guy that goes in the Animus? What's his name?
Desmond.
It was a shame that they didn't really flesh that out. I don't think that had a proper send off. It was never.
I don't disagree. Right. That's my whole point. Is I don't disagree with you. I think they could have definitely done more with it. I just don't really care. It's never been like the main point of the series that I paid attention to. I always am just kind of, anytime it goes to the present day stuff, I'm like, oh no, I want to go back. Come on, take me back to the Animus. I want to do that stuff more.
Yeah.
So
I did enjoy seeing the different perspective, though. It was a good change of pace for me, but
that's understandable.
It never went any there. I kind of grew attached to the characters, and it's like they never did anything with them. It's okay though.
Yeah.
I always thought that they were going to take that series, like they were building up to future, and you play as Desmond and run through futuristic buildings and stuff. I just thought that they would take the series that way, and they never did.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, in 4, it's not like they reference all those events and stuff, but you don't play as him or anything.
Right.
So, yeah, that's all I got. You ready to talk some next gen?
I suppose.
You sound so excited. I bet you're really excited for next gen, aren't you?
Man, I am pumped. Actually, I am. I'm excited to an extent. I don't know where you want to get started with this, but I'm not excited to invest in new consoles just yet. I haven't been playing much of my consoles anyway. My Switch gets the most play lately, so I don't know. It's just my play style has changed recently, and my TV time isn't as much as it used to be. So, it's not as appealing to me as it once was.
Understandable. Well, like I said, we can't talk about price, unfortunately. So What do we want to do? Just like talk about PS5, then talk about Xbox Series X, and then maybe compare the two a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's fine. PS5 is the one I'm most looking forward to. I'm pretty sure you are
Same.
too.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I like you said, quite frankly, I don't know. I don't know that like it doesn't feel like it's been a full console cycle. There's still it feels like the PS4 still has so much to offer.
I know. Came out in
it's just kinda crazy.
2012.
Yeah,
It's been 8
it's
years.
just mind blowing to me. I make it a point to typically not get consoles on release, simply because I am always just worried about another Red Ring of Death fiasco. Which,
Yeah.
granted, I didn't have to worry about because that didn't happen to me. I didn't get my 360 till years down the line. But hearing about that, and then also like the Switch when it first came out, and the controller issues, and just that first shipment always seems to have something,
Right.
and that's what I worry about. So I probably won't pick one up right off the bat. That being said, it's also going to depend on the games that come out. If they're like, hey, surprise drop, Final Fantasy 16 is now a release title, I'll be like, oh well, all right, I'm in.
Yeah.
So I will probably hold off, because quite frankly, right now there's really not like there's a lot of cool stuff that looks like it'll be fun when it comes out, but there's nothing where I'm looking at it saying I have to get a new console. That quite frankly, I will make that prediction right now. I don't think these are going to have amazing releases sales wise. I really am not expecting to see that, regardless of price. I just don't know that we're ready for next console generation yet.
I'm gonna have to agree with you there. It's I don't feel ready, and I know that a lot of people feel the same way. And this jump doesn't feel like a significant jump. Nothing that they have shown has absolutely just blown me away. Yeah, this is the first new console cycle where I'm just simply just not excited as I used to be.
What are you when you say jump? Like, what are you expecting? Like, what would make you think it's a bigger jump?
I don't know. I think probably smoother frame rates, more things going on screen, more details in the environments. Things like that. But honestly, like the only game that I've seen lately that has made me go, wow, is that trailer they showed for, I want to say it was the New Horizon game. Is that the one where they're running and they're jumping through stuff, and it's just like there's so much going on screen. I want to say it's that game, but I don't remember for sure.
The Ratchet and Clank one also had that.
Ratchet and Clank looked really nice too.
Yeah.
Both of those, like, I could see some difference, but it wasn't significant enough to make me super excited. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think when at least the way it's been in the past, when most people think of like what next gen is going to be, they're thinking how much more real can it get? And I think we're at a point where we're not going to really notice that many differences. Like you said, it's not going to seem as different. I think it's all going to be mostly on the back end. It's going to be, like you just said, a lot more things going on the screen. Performance. Like if you're in a big battle, you're going to actually be able to see individual soldiers doing individual things rather than just one group over here with another group over here copying, doing the exact same thing because it was just a copy paste, and so on. You're going to see a lot more individual things happening, and a lot of differences in each individual pixel. As far as the realism, though, and the way things look, it's not going to be that big of a jump, because there really isn't much more they can do to make it look more real. In a lot of cases, it looks pretty damn real as is. I mean, some would argue the PS3 to the PS4 wasn't a massive leap, but it was still a pretty significant upgrade. But that's kind of when I think people started to notice, like, how much big of a leap can the next one even be, after seeing this. But who knows? We obviously it's new. It's not out yet. We have no idea what we're going to see. It's just, and I think when it comes to, I know we're going to talk about comparing them later on, but I think when it comes to how they look and how they perform and everything, I think you and I are on the same page it's just going to come down to the games and how fun they are and what we're interested in.
I mean, that's what it is every time. Well, in the past, there was exceptions. Like I remember buying the PS4 and waiting in line to buy that, and the Xbox 360 and things like that. There were the PlayStation 4 though. I don't recall there being any killer games that I had to have the system for.
Yeah,
I was just so pumped to have a new system, so that was the big driving force for me. But for this new console generation, they've announced at least two these are system sellers for me. The Resident Evil 8 and Demon Souls Remastered, system sellers for me. I would absolutely buy it for those two games alone. Also the Spider-Man game, Miles Morales, that looked fantastic to me. A huge fan of the other Spider-Man games, so I'm in it for that. So, I mean, I may not get one on release unless those games are coming out with it. I just simply don't feel the need to. It could also be a case where if I walk into the store and see one and I know they're hard to get, I'll probably just pick it up just because it's there. The fear of missing out syndrome that I have. So the PlayStation 5 is going to win in that regard as far as games go. And Xbox hasn't put out a really great first party exclusive title in a while. I mean, the last good one was Gears 5, and even then it's a mediocre game, I'd say. It looks beautiful. It looks fantastic. Amy and I've been playing it. I've been playing it on the PC. She's been playing it on the Xbox One, and it's a good cooperative experience, and I don't think there's enough of those games on the PlayStation 4.
Sure.
But it's another Gears game. It's nothing. I like Gears games, but they're not. It's a fun shooter, and that's about it. And they haven't put out anything since. The only other big-time game I can think of is Forza Horizon 4, and
that was a while ago,
maybe
though.
the Master Chief Collection.
Yeah,
those are the only games that I really get a lot of time in with.
And those were a while ago. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. The Xbox Games Pass is huge. Here's what I think is going to happen. I think PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X are taking two completely different routes, and I think it's cool. PlayStation 5 is going after those big budget exclusive releases. Xbox is going after small budget exclusive releases to put on their Xbox Game Pass. They're just going to kind of flood that Game Pass with just tons of things that you can play for a monthly fee. And honestly, that's enticing to me. I have the Games Pass, and the kids and I play. Like, if there's a game on there that I hadn't bought or was curious about, I'll download it and try it out and see if it's for me or not. And I love that. That's super cool. Not to mention, like, all the games that they have on there, my kids love, like Grounded. They've been playing the heck out of Grounded. That was an Xbox Games Pass game. Sea of Thieves is another one they play the heck out of.
I love Sea of Thieves. It's so great.
Yeah. I couldn't get into it. My kids love it.
Man. Did you play by yourself or did you play with a group?
No, I played by myself.
Oh,
I went online, but I didn't play with.
You got to play with people you know, and oh man, it's so much fun. So much fun.
I also played it when it first came out, and I hear that it's improved drastically since then. So
yes, big time.
Yeah. I don't know. It's watching the kids play it, I think, is good enough for me. I haven't had a real desire to go back into it. I did play Grounded with them though, and that was pretty fun. I did get bored with it after a little bit because it's one of those collect things, craft, build stuff. It's like a Minecraft, but that style of game is not really my forte. So, but I mean, all the different games that they announced, Xbox announced, none of them really stood out to me. But if it's something that I can play, and to your point at the beginning of the show, you talked about having the PC. I have a good PC. I have the Xbox Games Pass. I can play those games on my PC. I see no reason to get the Series X. I see one reason. I'll tell you what it is. But what's that?
You can play it on your couch.
Well, but the biggest reason for me is the backwards compatibility. They seem to be pushing really, really hard on that.
Yeah.
And that's something that's really appealing to me because I've got a good library of 360 and Xbox original games that would be awesome to be able to play on the Series X.
Agreed.
And that would be probably that and the Xbox Games Pass would be the primary reasons for me buying that system.
I was extremely disappointed when they announced that, because there were the rumors on the PS5 being backwards compatible with everything, and I was so excited for that. I was like, dude, if they do that, then yes, that'll be a day one buy for me. I will absolutely pick that up because that'll replace every single console that I have, and I can box them up, and shelf them and just keep them off to the side. And when they came out and they were like, yeah, it'll be able to play PS4 games, I'm like, oh, so now I still have to hook up other stuff if I want to play it. Cool. So it's a little frustrating. I mean, it's great that they're allowing you to play the PS4 games, and I'll be able to take my PS4 and just shelve that, and it'll replace it down on my big TV. But it was a little disheartening to hear that. But I agree wholeheartedly that the Xbox backwards compatibility aspect is spectacular. When they announced it for Xbox One and started doing that, I thought that was just a brilliant move and great. And that's where I played Knights of the Old Republic. And I'm so happy that I was able to do that on my big TV in the main room. Not that I couldn't, but I just didn't want to have to hook up a whole new console to do it. So I applaud them for the steps they're taking. I really like Phil Spencer. I think he is a gamer at heart himself. And I've said this before, he totally gives off a little bit of a douchey frat boy vibe, but likable and like a guy that I would love to just hang out and have a beer with, and just kind of talk to him about games and stuff like that. And he's always, anytime there's console war stuff going on, he's always the first person to cross the line and be like, hey, PlayStation, congratulations on this release. But he's just a good dude.
You're right.
And I that's one of the biggest reasons that I would love to support them is because I really like him and what he does. I think he genuinely cares about not only how well Xbox does, but how well gaming in general does. I think he's a lot like me in like when I used to talk about SoPro and Novastar and that kind of stuff, and the gaming centers that were around here. I think I told you this, but SoPro offered to pay me when I first told them that I had a podcast and stuff like that. I turned all of it down because I'm like, no, you don't understand. I just want to promote this hobby. And first of all, I'm nowhere near big enough to even like warrant any kind of cash that you're talking about right now, dude. And it was a friend of mine. But I flat out told him no. I was like, you want to give me some free game time when I come in and hang out, I'll be more than happy to take that because I love hanging out at LAN centers and that kind of thing. But I genuinely just want to help enjoy and promote this hobby. And that's the kind of vibe that Phil Spencer gives off. So I'm really, really glad that he is at the helm. And has been for so long. They've made mistakes for sure, but I think he's done a lot to help turn it around for them.
Honestly, you're absolutely right. And I think his idea is to create this kind of Netflix for gaming. And I think that is the future. I really do. I think once it reaches that point, and Xbox is going to be the first to do it. I mark my words. They're already heavily heading that direction. But I think what's going to happen is this Xbox Games Pass.
Isn't that pretty much what Stadia is right now?
Yes, but Stadia does not have. They're new. I mean, and they have Google behind them. Google abandons projects constantly, and Stadia.
I'm surprised they're still around. To be honest with you.
Yeah. I mean, case in point, I have Google Music. I would take my soundtracks and things and old CDs that I have that aren't on Spotify, and I would rip them and put them into Google Music so I could listen to them, anywhere I am through the cloud. Well, they decided to kill off Google Music, and now I have to use this YouTube Music, and it sucks. It's so bad. It only works half the time, and the menus are all confusing. It's horrible. So, I mean, it's just another thing that they abandoned that worked just fine.
Yeah.
So, Stadia is going to be right next. I just know it will. But, I mean, Xbox, like you said, they have Phil Spencer. He's a smart dude, and he's a passionate person when it comes to this hobby, and he's going to make it happen. I know he will. Xbox Games Pass is incredible. I've already talked it up. But, I mean, if they continue to add more to it, and if you've noticed over the past few years, they've been buying up game studios left and right, man. And, like,
oh, yeah.
like good name indie studios as well as bigger name studios. They've been buying them up, and then I've been wondering what's going on. Why I haven't seen anything from these guys yet. Well, this is what they've been building up to. They've been creating these games specifically for the Xbox Series X and specifically for the Games Pass. So go ahead.
Are you? Well, I should start with that. Are you excited for that? Do you think that's good that that's happening?
I am. Yeah. Like, I think there's room for both. I think it's good that Xbox is taking a different route than PS5. It's creating, instead of two companies competing, they can coexist, much like the Nintendo can coexist with these other systems. They're just taking different approaches.
Do you remember when Xbox One first was announced and they tried doing exactly that though, and the blowback they received? That surprises me that people, because the way you're talking, you're not alone. A lot of people are saying they're like, man, we need just all digital. We need to go digital, get rid of physical media and all that stuff. Right. And I'm like, there were so many people, like a lot of the people who were saying, like, praising this, who were really pissed off that Xbox was going digital only. And I think a big part of that was they made it to where you had to be connected to the internet the entire time. Right. But if you're going to be getting games, how else are you going to get them anyways? So I think that's just funny that all of a sudden now so many people are praising this direction and saying, like, this is where we're headed, this is the future, blah, blah, blah. When just, 8 years ago or whatever it was, they were getting just torn apart because people were like, how am I going to let my friends borrow my games, or how am I going to like have this cool thing sitting on my shelf and that kind of thing.
So the big difference is, and I think the reason why it works now is because of the Games Pass and because of the what's the streaming thing that they're going to start doing? I forget the name. Oh, sorry. My wife must have just got home. Dogs get excited. So but the Games
I'm really
Pass,
glad you said the dog's getting excited after that, because never mind. You just hear dog bark and then you just go, my wife just got home. I'm like, oh God, dude. It's terrible. Ugh.
I lost my train of thought.
Hi, Amy.
Sorry.
You're awesome. I wasn't trying to. Okay.
Yeah, I'll tell her later.
Say you did.
Now.
You did.
So the Games Pass wasn't around back then. Like, people didn't. And the Games Pass, like, even when it first started out, there wasn't very many good games on it. And now they're releasing brand new games on the Games Pass, like Streets of Rage 4. I played through that with my son. We had a blast playing it. We didn't have to buy that game. It came with the Games Pass. Yep. Battletoads, the new Battletoads, it's not great. It's okay. That came out. I got to play it first when it first came out. It's so cool. And they have all these studios who are creating smaller games for it. Like, they're not going after the big budget titles unless it's a third party release. They're focused on these smaller, more have fun. They're basically letting the developers do what they want with these experiences. And I think that's a really good decision. Some of my favorite Xbox games were the downloadable games that came out on the 360 when they were doing the Summer of Arcade. Do you remember that?
I do, yeah.
Braid came out during that time.
Mm-hmm.
What's the black and white one where you're a little kid, he dies gruesome deaths? Limbo was part of that. There was a bunch of different other games that were part of that, and those were some of my favorite games, and I would never have played them. I don't think I would have ever have played them, or they would have had a chance to release if everything was just focused on these big, top tier games. So I think Xbox is taking a smart approach. I do think they need to have some bigger end titles there though as well. They can't just keep doing these small ones and expect to stay afloat. They need to have some big names. PlayStation is killing it with those big names, and the big name that they have right now, Halo Infinite, which is a system seller for me, by the way. That game looks like it's going back to its roots as far as like the
graphically
atmosphere
too
and everything. Unfortunately, and actually, that didn't really bother me.
It didn't bother me either. Not at
fit
all.
about it, and I was like, I'm fine with that.
I totally.
What
agree.
I've noticed.
Yep.
What I probably told you this on the show before. My kids love the original Halo.
Oh, cool.
They play it all the time. it's because it's a simple first-person shooter. And if Halo Infinite is going back to that, I think it's a smart idea.
Yeah, I agree.
So,
I mean, I think you're right with what you're saying, but I don't know that necessarily has much to do with the point I was making regarding physical versus digital and going all digital only. Because back then it literally, like, PlayStation was making fun of them for it. They had that whole like bit that they did at E3 where they had the one guy hand like, "Hey, Xbox, this is how
Yeah.
you let your friends borrow a game. Here."
yeah, that
And
was so
like
funny.
they were just dragging them through the mud, and everybody was getting on their case for it. And that didn't necessarily have anything to do with the types of games that they had or that kind of thing. It was literally just, hey, the only way you're going to be able to play this is by having an internet connection and downloading them and playing them that way. And the fact that, I agree with you 100% that is the way it's going. I like the idea of being able to let people borrow stuff and being able to borrow things from other people. I love renting is gone, but I love the concept of that. I mean, this is just, stuff that I'm going to miss because I'm a nostalgic person and everything. That I just find it funny that it was such a big deal back then, and all of a sudden now I just don't understand why everybody's okay with it now all of a sudden. It's just weird to me. And maybe they've had time to process and kind of realize like, oh, hey, we're all going digital, and most of these games that they're doing, it's more convenient to have digitally anyways. But back then, no, everybody was pissed.
I think you do have a good point, and I agree with you. I still prefer physical media, but my perspective of Xbox has changed. And it's changed quite a bit. I only own maybe 5 physical Xbox One games. I don't own very many Xbox One games at all. I've got a huge digital library on my Xbox, though, with all the games that they give away for free and all the games that I've purchased over the years. My digital Xbox library is so vast, that I'm okay with it on that system.
Sure.
Now, when it comes to a new AAA release, if it's a third-party title, I'm going to buy it on the PlayStation 4, and I'm going to buy it physically so I can have that disc. But if it's a free game or whatever, or it's super cheap on Xbox Digital Store, then I'll buy it there. So Xbox to me, my Xbox One is basically a digital-only machine. My kids play it primarily, and we only play digital games. I don't ever crack open. The games that I have physically are old games that nobody's going to play anyway, and they're not worth anything. Otherwise, I would have traded them into GameStop or something by now.
Sure.
But yeah, and so I think in that regard, I'm okay with it because my perception of them is different than it is with the PlayStation. So
that's fair. I actually think that's a really, really good argument for them. I think they've definitely, because of, again, Phil Spencer at the helm, I think they've learned to adapt and change, and Xbox Game Pass is a major risk. And hey, doing you own it on one, you own it on the other with PC, that's also a huge risk. I mean, they're going all out with trying to bring people back in, and it's pretty damn amazing that they're still willing to do all these things, because they can't be, making tons of money hand over fist for that kind of what is Game Pass like? Is it $10 a month, something like that?
I think it's 15 a month.
15?
But
still,
if you get it on sale, I buy those cards whenever they go on sale. I've got a year and a half worth of Games Pass that I bought for cheaper.
Jeez. I mean, yeah. So it's mind blowing that they're able to do that. Do they take games off of there? Because I saw they're getting rid of a few.
They do.
So
yeah. That's the unfortunate thing. If it's an Xbox Studio or a Microsoft Studio, then it'll always be on there. But if it's a third-party studio, it's only in limited time. But I haven't found that to be an issue. Usually I will play a game and they keep it on there long enough for you to play it. And if it's something that's not hitting with you, then you don't have to play it anymore. And if they take it off, I don't care. I mean, it's not a deal breaker for me. But in terms of the amount, Xbox is going after playing on multiple platforms, not just an Xbox Series X. So they want you to be able to play on your phone and on your tablet and on your computer. The PC, I love that the Games Pass works on the PC too. Not every game works on the PC, but the ones that I care about do. And for Gears, for instance, I'm able to play with Amy cooperatively on the PC while she plays on the Xbox. And I think under the same Games Pass account, mind you.
Oh wow.
So
Okay.
yeah. So I don't have two different Games
is
Pass
really cool.
accounts for that to make it work. And the way it works is I have the Xbox registered under my gamer tag. And then so any other gamer tag under that can play those games on there. So she'll just sign in under her name, and then I'll use my gamer tag on the PC so we can play together.
That's cool. Wow.
It's a great
I didn't know that.
workaround. I don't think it's advertised to work that way, but it works, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, that's great.
So I think of Xbox as like another Steam, you know, except for they're trying to expand their market of games to all different consoles. I think it's a cool idea. If I have a controller, like I got my Xbox One controller right here that I play on my PC, and I can sync this up to my laptop or whatever, let's say, and play a quick round of games while streaming it. That's freaking amazing. I love that. But also, since I picked up the controller, that made me think they're going to let you use the Xbox One controllers on the Xbox Series X, which is another thing that is super cool.
Yeah.
That is brilliant. Like, this is the first generation where they're going to allow you to use last generation's controller on the new console.
Are they even making new controllers for it?
They are, yeah,
Oh,
but I don't think they're that much different.
I don't. Why would they make them different? Those Xbox One controllers. They're
great.
the most comfortable controllers I've ever felt. Honestly,
Yeah, they're great.
the
great.
button placement sucks. The XBAY buttons are in the wrong place. Super Nintendo had them and trained me like for years, and the Xbox comes over and is like, "Nope, we're gonna just move these around now." And it's like,
shift it all on
you jerk. Thanks. Sorry, rant over. Apologize.
But also, like the Pro controllers, you know, those $100-$200 controllers.
Yeah.
People invest a lot of money in that, and they know that, so they want people to be able to use that with
Thankfully.
the new console. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know. Like, I'm of a split decision here, where you know, I kind of want to shit on Xbox for what they're doing because they're not having any great exclusive titles, but it's all the other things that they're doing. They're taking a whole different approach to gaming, and I'm on board. I'm on board.
Sure. Yep. I can't fault you at all. I'm still always going to be a PlayStation guy at heart, but I love
Me too.
seeing innovation. I love seeing new ideas, and again, you know, that's a broken record, but Phil Spencer, man, I just love seeing what the guy comes up with and what they do. Looks like such a douche, man. I just want to hug him. I just want to hug him.
He's a nice guy. I like him. Every time he comes on stage.
Like I said, I would love to just have a beer with the guy, talk, and just be friends. But man, I see him and I'm just like, oh God, you were such a frat boy in college, and you probably partied way too much. And
well, it's funny that you had that perspective too, because I always have a kind of a respect for him, and I like seeing him when he comes up on stage and talks about stuff. He beams positivity, I guess, and excitement, and I like that. I'm drawn to that. You know, we've been talking a lot about the Xbox, but the console that both of us are probably most excited for, we really haven't talked much about, PS5. So what is it that you're looking forward to the most about the PS5, and why? It's the games, really. I don't really need to ask.
I mean, what is there really to talk about? It's just going to be a souped-up PS4. They're not really doing anything different. The main reason we talked about the Xbox One or the Xbox Series X, with dumb name, by the way. I don't even know why.
Stupid name.
You would call it that. Good Lord.
It is a dumb name.
It doesn't roll off the tongue. It's just, yeah.
They should have went the naming convention of numbers like the PlayStation did. It's easier that way.
Or just keep doubling it. Xbox 360, Xbox 720, you know, whatever. That's another reason why I'm not looking at getting a PS4 at launch. There really isn't anything. Horizon is the only thing that makes me go, I really want to play that. I really want it now. A lot of the other stuff looks cool, looks neat, but nothing that makes me say I have to get this system. And Horizon, frankly, doesn't do that for me either. Do I want it? Yes. Will I get it? Yes. Right away? Absolutely not. It'll be a few months, if not a year, at least. I think I just don't know that it's going to be that different from what we're seeing now. It's just a new piece of hardware. That's it. I mean, it's just an upgrade. There's really nothing like it's PlayStation. You know, they're going to nail it. They're going to have all the entertainment you need and want, and it's going to be beautiful. It's going to run great. And I think they know that. That's why they haven't tried to rock the boat too much with tons of
Yeah.
new innovations and all this stuff. They're just like, hey, what we have works. We're going to leave it at that. I do agree, and I'm a little disappointed with the lack of backwards compatibility that the Xbox One is. I keep calling it that. The Xbox Series X is going to have, because they, all the way back, whereas PS5 is just going to be PS4 and that's it. I really wish it would have been the older games as well. Same with the controllers. I think that is a huge mistake. PS4 controllers are also great, and I can't imagine the new ones are going to function very differently from those. So I don't see why you would need to necessarily exclude the older ones, especially if you're going to be playing PS4 games on there. But again, those are just gripes and like hardly reasons for me to say this is going to tank and be terrible, and I have no interest in getting it at all. I just don't see anything that makes it go, you have to get this day one, because it is a can't miss thing right off the bat. Just,
Yeah.
it's a new console. That's it.
You're exactly right. PS5 is not really innovating much at all. And the sole reason that I would get a PS5 is because, man, they know how to knock it out of the park with their exclusives.
Yes.
They just hit the right notes every single time. And so by that track alone, or that track alone, that is enough for me to want to invest in that and get it. And I know I will. Like, they've already announced some amazing sequels to games that I'm passionate about, and that's enough reason for me to be excited about it. But at the same time, they're not really doing much to innovate. And if anything, they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot with the not being able to use the controller. That's a big deal. It seems to me like Xbox is thinking more about the gamer and how can we make this accessible to the gamer the easiest way possible. Like, they're thinking about the gamer and their back catalog. I love that
they're thinking, how are we going to get people back over to our side?
Right.
Whereas that PlayStation's just like, we got this, we're good.
Yeah. You're right. And PlayStation's not afraid to invest a ton of money into a studio, into a game, like Last of Us, I don't know how much money they put in that game, but it was a crap ton. I know it was. It had to have been. But I mean, even like Ghost of Tsushima came out within a month after Last of Us. It's crazy that they're coming out with these huge, expensive titles, and they're just killing it with quality every single time. So I think there's room for both systems. I think most people are going to have both systems. They're not going to have one or the other. Like, I think that these systems can coexist. And I also think that they can release cheaper versions of the Xbox Series X that specifically are a streaming box, and then that way, if you want some of those high quality AAA third party titles that will come out on the Xbox, you can get the more expensive system. Otherwise, if you want to stream and stuff, we've got a console for that. It's the Xbox One, or you can buy the streaming deck, kind of like the Stadia, or something like that. I think they're trying to innovate in a wholly different way than PlayStation 5 is. And
PlayStation 5 is going forward, where Xbox is kind of going like this.
Yes. And I don't think it's going to be successful.
Makes sense to the audio listeners, by the way, what I just did.
I didn't even think about that. But I don't think they're going to succeed right out of the gate. I think it's going to take maybe a year or two before people start realizing what's going to happen. But I think Xbox is taking a good approach here. Instead of beating their competitor, they're going to try to work around their competitor.
I think that's good. I mean, quite frankly, if anybody knows how to not worry about beating their competitor and just focus on what makes them great and, finding their own direction, look at Nintendo.
Exactly.
Switch is not the most powerful console. They never tried to be the most realistic and gritty and AAA, super crazy games that are just going to knock everybody's socks off. They're just like, hey, we want you to have fun. Come play our console. You'll like it. Yeah. It's a good time. And that's what they focus on.
Yeah.
And it's worked for them. You know, I mean, you can argue that the Wii U was a massive failure, and quite frankly, in a lot of ways, it was. But it wasn't because they weren't trying something new. They were. It was just not really what people really wanted, and I don't think they knew what to do with it. That's a whole separate, video and topic.
Yeah.
But what they couldn't do with the Wii U, they did with the Switch. They were able to make it exactly what people wanted, and quite frankly, I don't think people knew that that's what they wanted until they had it. And they were like, "Oh my god, this is so cool! Playing it in handheld, and I can just pop it into the TV." Like they had no idea. But it's one of those things where you don't know that you want it until you have it, and it's like, I can't believe we haven't done this before.
Yeah.
And the Switch is great. It's doing fantastically, and you got 2 new consoles on the horizon, and I'm still excited to play my Switch games.
Exactly,
So
dude. I'm the same. And I'm sure you've seen the rumors of the Switch Pro that's rumored to come out next year.
Yeah,
I know they have that rumor all the time, but this one seems to be more substantiated. And it's not setting out to replace the Switch. It's just trying to coincide, kind of like the new 3DS did. But I also read that they're not looking to make exclusive Switch Pro titles either. So that's cool. Like basically they're just upgrading the gameplay for.
I hope they stick to that, because they didn't do that with the 3DS. The new 3DS you had to have for a few games.
Xenoblade Chronicles really was one of them.
Yep. I really hope they don't do that.
I don't think they will. I think it would be shooting themselves in the foot. They've already built a pretty good library that they don't need to override. Let's just keep it going. And I don't know. I'm excited about that too. I'll totally upgrade my Switch.
I will too. Then I will need to figure out what to do with my old one. I know what I would do with it. I don't want to say on here, but I know what I would do with it.
Well, I would hand mine down to one of my kids, but I just kind of got them all Switches anyway. In that way.
You got all Switches? All your kids have Switches?
Yes.
Oh my god, dude.
Yes. Yeah, I know.
Oh my god. Can I recruit your family to play Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles with me?
Oh, they totally would. Yeah, they totally would.
Yes.
They
Sweet. I just need 3. That's all.
I have to buy the game. That's the only thing that sucks, is I have to buy each game separately. We can't.
Oh, mister, I buy a console for every one of my kids, but I won't spring for a game on each one. Really? Come on.
Okay. Good point. Fair point. I'll tell you what happened though, man. I bought them a Switch last Christmas, and they fight over that thing constantly. I have 4 kids, for those of you that don't know. So we're a big gamer house, obviously. And so I just, man, I couldn't. What happened was, I'm serious. You're trying to justify. My middle daughter loves playing Splatoon, and she really was saving up her allowance to buy a Switch. And dude, she got almost there. She was like almost there, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna get it for her and help her out. But then my other middle daughter was like, I want one too. And so she got into Splatoon. And so now her new goal was to save up for a Switch. And then I was like, at this point, the only one left is my oldest daughter, and she loves playing the Switch too. It's like, I'll just buy them all Switches and get it over with. I didn't buy them all at one time. I spread it out over the course of the year, and I was going to give it to them at Christmas. But what happened was the pandemic, basically. We're sitting here and they're still fighting over one Switch, and they really wanted to play the game.
Stuck at home. That makes sense.
They're stuck at home and they need something to do. And I was like, you know what? I talked to Amy about it. I was like, let's go talk to them, see if they would like to get an early Christmas gift. And I made sure every one of them know.
Did you think they were going to say no?
I knew they wouldn't. But I wanted them to know that, hey, if you're getting this now, you're not going to get a big Christmas this year. I'm sorry. You'll get some small things.
Yeah.
But, the big gift you're getting now, and it's because of the pandemic. And they're ecstatic. And they play them. Dude, ever since I gave them to them, they love it. And
they play together?
Really happy about it. They do, yeah. So cool. I get Splatoon. They love Splatoon. That's their game. But also, I have a pretty extensive library of Switch games that they can pick from. And
awesome.
It's like, it made sense for us. We're a gaming family.
That's great. Yeah.
That's the way it should be.
That's great.
New consoles, man. Can't wait.
Just end up talking about the Switch the whole time. I mean, I honestly, there's really not much else to say. I don't think about either one of them. We've talked about them both individually. We've compared them a little bit. I mean, PlayStation is the front runner right now, and Xbox just has to hope that one of the 10,000 things they're trying to do sticks. And I'm confident they're going to do fine, as long as they, like you said, they really need to focus on those first party titles and get some big winners in there. Because it's what I worry about is what they used to do. Whenever there was a big, I don't know if you remember this, but a few years ago when Xbox first started buying some of the big name studios, people were a little worried because Xbox had this thing, and I don't know if it was Xbox or Microsoft themselves, where they, as soon as they would buy a studio, they'd be like, all right, here's how you're going to make the game. And they would micromanage and put their hands in everything. Whereas PlayStation has a really big reputation, and Kojima is a perfect example, where if they see something that works, they're just like, hey, come develop for us. We'll pay you to keep it exclusive here. You do whatever the hell you want. We know we believe in your product, and we're going to just, you do your thing. And that's a big reason they've got done so well for themselves. I think Microsoft has or Xbox, I should say, has straight, like, kind of moved away from that in recent years, because I haven't heard as much about like studios going under after being under their umbrella. But that doesn't mean that it's still, we got a new console coming up, so who knows what they're going to blame poor sales on, or any kind of like performance issues or anything like that. Who knows where that blame's going to fall? It could very well just be like, yeah, we bought these studios, but rock's got to fall somewhere, so it's going to be on one of these guys. You're gone. And they liquidate them. So it'll be interesting to see.
I hadn't heard about any of the micromanaging stuff. I mean, it does make sense, but
it's been a while. But for a while they did.
From my perspective, at least what it looks like based upon all the games that they were showing off, it looked like they were basically saying, hey, come develop a game and then, do whatever you want type of thing. Because the games seem to be all over the place. And all of them were, they don't look amazing. They definitely look like indie titles, but they look like bigger budget indie titles to me. So I'm excited for what can come out if you let a studio do what they want to do. Give them the funds and let them do what they want to do. I think like nobody's really excited about the games that were announced through Xbox yet, but I just because we don't know anything about them. PlayStation has all these other games that they can rely on, all these series. I mean, they had Resident Evil and Demon Souls, and Spider-Man and Horizon. Those are all games that people know. They're sequels to games that people love. Xbox is kind of starting off fresh with new IPs, new titles, and I really think you're going to see some really surprising, fun, addictive games, and it's going to be a case of gameplay versus graphics, and I think they're gonna nail the gameplay perspective with these games. At least that's what I'm hoping. I'm holding.
I mean, even Halo, their flagship title, the one that is catching people's eyes. They really didn't go much into it. It's like supposed to be this big open world. It's called Halo Infinite. I didn't really get a sense of how open the world is or how big it is. They literally just showed what looked like an original Halo level, and that was it.
It definitely looked like it needed more time, and it definitely, I mean, they just didn't have much to say about it. It's like, this is supposed to be a launch title?
I would have liked to have seen just more scope.
Yeah, or something, like it just, honestly, if they can release this new Halo and give us back that classic multiplayer style that they used to have, that they popularized back in the mid-2000s, man, with Halo and Halo 2, I think they're onto something there. I think people are ready for that.
I think it would go a long way. Microsoft, if you're listening, I think it would go a long way when the Series X does come out. Since obviously you can't, the game's delayed, but if you had some sort of a demo for the new Halo that was with it, that was free, that you could try out. And it had, not just one level, but a few, maybe even like the first 2 or 3 maps of the story mode. Just like a really meaty demo that has quite a bit to it. I think that would go a long way into alleviating some people's, not fears, but at least like fan the flames a little bit. Just because right now, you know, as soon as people heard that, they were like, I can't tell you how many times on Twitter I saw like, what the hell reason is there to get one now? You know, so which, you know, is debatable because there's still plenty of good stuff coming. It just depends on what kind of gamer you are, what you're into. It'll be interesting to see what happens. I'm definitely going to be an observer for a while. So we'll see.
I'm curious to see which one of these new IPs ends up being a system seller. One that the breakout hit, you know, the one that everybody has to play because it's so amazing. I guarantee you there's going to be one in there.
We'll find out.
Yeah, we'll find out real soon. That's the other crazy thing, man. I can't believe how close we are to these new console releases, yet it still feels like we know so little about them. You know what I mean?
Still no price either.
Yeah, it's crazy.
At least on August 26th, 2020, there's no price as of yet. So on the 7th, when this releases, there might be. And if so, hey, you judge for yourself whether it's worth it or not, listener or viewer. So that's all I got. You got anything else?
Well, here's another interesting point. I think gone are the days of camping out for a new console.
Agreed. Yeah.
I think everything's going to be
especially right now with COVID.
Only. True. But I mean, even without COVID, I don't think people would be camping out to get it.
Definitely not for these.
No. Which is kind of sad, man. I camped out for the Xbox 360 and the Wii, and I didn't camp out for the PS4, but I did wait in line for it.
I didn't camp out, but I was waiting in line for about, I'd say 9 or 10 hours for the Wii when it came out.
Did you? Yeah.
And I got the second to last one. So lady offered me $400 for mine. And I should have taken it because later on they were super easy to find. But I really wanted one at the time. I really wanted one. All I wanted to do was play Wii bowling. That was it. That's all I cared about.
Man, yeah.
So, yeah.
You want to hear something kind of cool? This is off tangent. I think we're done with that now. It's a short story.
Sure.
I went to Goodwill last week, and they had a Wii, and it had everything with it, and it looked perfect. Like it looked like it had never been played. So I went ahead and picked it up. It was like $30. So I bought it and brought it back home and hooked it up. And I was like, I bet you this was owned by like an older couple or something that just bought it for Wii Sports. Sure enough, I plugged it in and hit eject, and Wii Sports was the only game in there, or was the game in there. And I went into, when you go into the Wii's, you can go back to the backlog and see what they played. Wii Sports was the only game that was on there. And then you go into the Me section, and one of the who was it? Like, I can't remember the names, but they were like old people names, like Gertrude or something like that, man. It was crazy. It was crazy. I was like, this Wii is they probably bought it, played it once or twice, and have never played it again. It's funny.
Ethel and I play tennis on the Wii's.
Yeah. So I'm gonna keep that one. Usually I buy those to trade in or resell, to help build my collection. But that one, because it's so pristine, I'm gonna keep it.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. All right. Next episode, we are talking story versus gameplay.
Yes.
Story versus gameplay. I'm excited. That's one that I honestly comes up so often in conversations when I talk to people about gaming in general. And I have changed my mind on that a few times, but the last few times I've been asked, I'm stuck on one, and I don't think it'll change because I think I've pretty much justified it to myself finally as to why. So tune in next time to see which one I prefer and which one Adrian prefers. So
that could even extend to graphics versus gameplay too, which is, I think, a even bigger comparison that is made.
I mean, we can do story versus gameplay versus graphics.
I mean, I'm
still going to have the same answer.
Who knows?
It's not going to matter.
Okay. Yeah. it should be another fun discussion. And actually, I thought this discussion was a lot funner than I originally thought it was going to be, because both you and I, we already admitted, we're not
We're not
terribly
super
excited
excited,
about
yeah.
it. So I was like, what can I say? But it ended up being a pretty well-rounded discussion. So yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, I mean, you and I could have a conversation about a honey hole for 2 hours, and we'll just keep talking and talking. So it's not like
You suck, man. You suck.
Nah, but yeah. I'm right there with you. I was kind of like, I was actually expecting it to be a little bit shorter and being like, this will be a little
Me
throw off.
too.
We'll be able to rock through this, and there's not much to say and stuff. But as is tradition, we just ramble and ramble and ramble. So
Hey, that's what makes this fun.
absolutely. You got anything to plug?
How about my Twitter again? Birdazoid at Birdazoid, BIRDAZOID. I don't post too often on there, but that's where you can find me.
And as always, I'm at Game Room Revival on YouTube, and that's where this video is if you're watching it. And Adrian will have the audio portions up on pretty much any audio platform that you can find that's out there. And I'll have my Twitter links and mine and Adrian Twitter links in the video description as well. Mine is at JJ Santinello. I'm not going to spell it because I don't feel like it. Sorry. But if anybody is playing at this point Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles, you hit me up, man, because I love the original and I plan on playing this one, and I'm super stoked. And I just want friends to play it with, because it's a really fun game, especially if you got a group of people. So definitely looking forward to that, because that'll be out tonight at midnight. So
I will be playing with you. I'm still trying to decide which system I want to get it for, though.
okay,
But you don't care either way, right?
I do not care either way. You play it
Okay.
on whichever
I
one
might
you
go
want. I'm
Switch.
getting it on both, so it's totally
Okay.
your call. It's literally the only difference is you'll be able to use your headset for your. I mean, you can use your phone for your Switch, I guess, but
I mean, it's a workaround, but see, that's where I'm confused. Like, I love being able to hold it in my hand and play it like this, versus playing it on the TV. I feel like it's more flexibility if I get it on the Switch. But the downside
PS4
is,
version comes with a theme.
does it? I still have the Final Fantasy VII Remake theme on mine.
I do too.
It's good.
I have the Butterfinger one.
The Tifa one?
Yeah,
Yep, that's one
I really like the music. Oh, it's just so good.
Agreed.
Yeah. I still haven't even listened to that soundtrack, and I have it. There's so many discs to it. It's crazy.
It's so good, man. I love it.
All right, that's all I got. You got anything else?
I don't. Thanks for listening.
Absolutely. With that, this is the PP Podcast, the Pixel
Awesome.
Perspective Podcast, signing off. And as always, what should they do, Adrian?
Keep on gaming.
That's right. Thank you, and good night.